Regular meeting number 22 will now come to order. Please stand for the playing of the national anthem. Councilmember Stinziano, will you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Derek Anderson, Director of the Community Relations Commission, will you come forward and lead us in prayer?
Thank you, President Klein. Let us pray. We come this evening thanking you for your kindness and your mercy shown toward us. We ask a special blessing upon the family of Officer Smith and all those in the law enforcement community. We also ask a special blessing upon this council as they deliberate over the issues and matters facing the entire city of Columbus. We thank you and are eternally grateful for your goodness, your mercy, and your showers of blessings. Now be with us as we deliberate this evening, but not just this evening, but let us all be continually in your care. This we ask in your name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Clerk, call the roll.
Brown, Hardin, Page, Stinziano, Tyson, President Klein.
Can I get a motion to dispense with the reading of the journal? Clerk, call the roll.
Brown, Hardin, Page, Stinziano, Tyson, President Klein.
This week's communications received by the City Clerk's office are listed on the agenda and we published in the City Bulletin. Are there any other communications to be read in the record?
Not at this time.
About resolutions from members of council. Councilmember Elizabeth Brown. Councilmember Mitch Brown. Councilmember Hardin.
Please. Thank you, President Klein. This evening, I'd like to invite Mr. Joel Diaz to come forward as we make this presentation. This weekend, I was privileged to join Mayor Ginther, Councilmember Stinziano, and 1,500 members of our community at the Dr. Robert J. Fast Memorial AIDS Walk. This year, the 1,500 walkers raised nearly $300,000 for HIV/AIDS services in Central Ohio. These funds will go to the organizations like the AIDS Resource Center, OSU's AIDS Clinical Trials Unit, Camp Sunrise, Nationwide Children's Hospital's FACES program, and others to provide education, prevention, testing, housing, medication, supplies, and other services for people living with HIV and AIDS. It was a beautiful weekend bringing together the entire community together for a show of support. At the city, we provide support for the Ryan White HIV/AIDS program for individuals without health insurance to provide primary health care. So I thank President Pro Tem Priscilla Tyson for her leadership in this area. First, I would check with President Pro Tem Tyson, see if there are any additional comments.
Thank you, Councilmember Hardin, for presenting this resolution this evening. We really do appreciate, Joel, you and your team at Columbus AIDS Task Force for the work that you do to be able to support individuals in our community that may be living with HIV and AIDS. We also appreciate the work that you're doing for our Harlem program that you're having on Saturday, so thank you for that work. HIV/AIDS is certainly a major health crisis in our community, and especially for people of color, and just really do appreciate your outreach and your work to be able to make sure that people be able to live out their quality of life. And thank you, Councilmember Harden, for presenting this resolution as well as being attendant at the event.
Thank you, President Pro Tem. Any additional comments from my colleagues? With that, I move for passage of Resolution 0089X-2016.
Brown, Harden, Page, Stenziano, Tyson, President Klein.
The floor is yours, Mr. Diaz.
Thank you. Councilmember Harden, Council President Klein, and City Council members, we're really grateful and appreciative of all of your support over the years of our programs and services. I would like to share with you all that we have changed our name. We are now known as Equitas Health. We're very excited to be able to expand our services to now include LGBTQ-friendly care as part of our service delivery model. So we're very excited to continue to build on the legacy of our HIV/AIDS work that we've been known for the last 32 years. And as we continue to move our organization forward, to be able to serve additional people in our community as needed to help meet the needs of our community as they exist. So thank you so much for your support.
Thank you, Councilmember Harden. Councilmember Page.
Thank you, President Klein. If I may make an announcement, the Zoning Committee will have Zoning 101, a public hearing on April 26th at 4 p.m. This will be very exciting as we will learn about the zoning process from the beginning to the end here in the city of Columbus. So I invite you all to attend. Thank you, President Klein.
Do you get CLE for that? That'd be great. Councilmember Stinziano.
Thank you, President Klein. I had it on a consent agenda to recognize and celebrate the Ohioana Library and 10th Annual Ohioana Book Festival, but the Executive Director, Mr. Weaver, and a board member are here, and I was hoping if we could have them come on up. Those that aren't familiar with the Ohioana Book Festival, it is a wonderful opportunity to connect our residents, people across Ohio, with their favorite Ohio writers. I really have established a wonderful relationship with Mr. Weaver, and Ms. Bishop not only is a board member, but also a neighbor of mine. And so my son enjoys going down to her little library, and I know given the 10th anniversary, there will be more books at that little library. So appreciate you all being here at Chambers. Looking forward to attending the festival this weekend, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you, President Klein. Thank you, Council Member Stinziano, and all of the members of the council. We are very delighted to be here, and we thank the councilman for sponsoring the resolution, which will be formally presented at our event on Saturday. And as he did mention, this is our 10th anniversary. We started with 10 authors and 600 attendees in 2007. It has grown now to 120 authors. We expect 4,000 attendees. And the live and virtual audience through broadcast and other means reaches a total of 50,000. So it has become the single largest literary event in the state of Ohio that celebrates Ohio authors and Ohio books. And we're especially grateful because the city of Columbus has provided generous support through the Greater Columbus Arts Council. And I want to give a shout out to President Katzenmeyer, of GCAC, because from the very first seed grant that they gave us to do the very first festival in 2007 up until this current year, they have invested more than $160,000 in grant money. So the growth that we have been able to experience has been a direct result of the generous support of the city of Columbus through GCAC. So we want to encourage everyone to come along, and I know that President Bishop shares my enthusiasm. I brought a couple of posters, and for Mike, because he missed having the Ohioana Quarterly. Ohioana Quarterlies, for all of you, which this is the official spring issue, which contains the Ohioana Book Festival. So we're looking forward to another great event. And again, it's all made possible thanks to the generosity of not just GCAC, but Honda, Nationwide Children's Hospital, and so many other organizations in and around Columbus, and we're grateful.
And the event is when?
That is Saturday from 10 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. The event is at the Sheraton Columbus at Capitol Square. We're very excited because last year, for the first time, we moved the event to the heart of downtown Columbus, which has always been a goal from the very first year. So we hope we'll see you all there. And Mike, we will see you there and look forward to the presentation. We'll be actually having a closing reception at the Ohio State House to celebrate our 10-year anniversary, and that will be from 5:30 to 7:30. So thank you all very much.
Councilmember Stinziano, and just want to say to the viewing and listening audience, it is a great event. I've been a number of times and just know that it's been great. It's a great literary event, but also just to come to the Ohio Library, I think it's one of the best kept secrets. People don't know a lot about it, and I think going to the event and then coming to visit the library would be great. So thank you for coming down, and thank you.
Thank you. If I can do one shout out too, I might make mention, we have 120 great authors, but I would really like to call special attention to Jacqueline Woodson, who is a native of Columbus and was the 2014 National Book Award winner in the category Juvenile Literature and is the current U.S. Children's Poet Laureate. So we're excited to welcome a native of Columbus back, in one of the special roles as a featured author.
That is all I have, President Klein.
Thank you, Councilmember Stinziano. President Pro Tem Tyson?
Yes, I have one resolution this evening, and it's resolution number 0091X, and I'm going to ask Dr. Darrell M. Gray II, MD, MPH, Assistant Professor and Director of Section of Community Engagement and Equity in Digestive Health, Division of Gastroenterology, Hepatology, and Nutrition, Deputy Director, Center for Cancer, Health Equity, OSU Comprehensive Cancer Center, the James Cancer Hospital. And this resolution is to recognize Dr. Darrell Gray II, MD, MPH, and the Ohio State University Wexner Medical Center PACE program for their community engagement efforts and their work at promoting equity in digestive health. Whereas colorectal cancer is a third most commonly diagnosed cancer and the third leading cause of cancer-related death among men and women in the United States. And whereas there are significant disparities in the colorectal cancer incidence, mortality, and screening rates within underserved communities in the United States, particularly among minorities and individuals with limited financial resources and limited social capital. Whereas colorectal cancer, although largely preventable when screening tests are regularly administered and curable when detected at an early age, many age-appropriate individuals, particularly the uninsured people and people with limited incomes, remain unscreened and are not current or up-to-date with their screenings, which translates into a clear disparity in incidence and, unfortunately, mortality among these groups. Whereas Dr. Darrell M. Gray II and the staff of the Section of Community Engagement and Equity in Digestive Health in the Division of Gastroenterology, Hepatology, and Nutrition recognize that there is an unmet need for educational programs that address barriers and limitations to high-quality health care that could eliminate these disparities. Whereas Dr. Gray and the division recognizing that every patient, no matter their race, ethnicity, language, socioeconomic status, or sexual identity, should receive high-quality, safe, timely, and patient-centered care, created the PACE program as a collaborative effort between the OSU Wexner Medical Center of Gastroenterology, Hepatology, and Nutrition, GNH, the OSU Comprehensive Cancer Center, the James Cancer Hospital Solove Institute, and multiple community and private organizations for the purpose of reducing disparities in the colorectal cancer continuum from prevention to survivorship. And whereas Dr. Gray and the PACE program, with the belief that equity is everyone's business, has not only engaged the residents of Columbus and Central Ohio in this educational effort to eliminate and reduce disparities, but he's also engaged leaders, clinicians, and researchers researchers, and other communities who have also committed themselves to identifying these disparities, finding solutions, and translating these solutions into practice, which ultimately will lead to better health outcomes. Now, therefore, be it resolved by this council of the City of Columbus that this council does hereby recognize Dr. Dale Gray II, MD, MPH, and the Ohio State University Wexner Medical Center PACE program for their community engagement efforts and their work at promoting equity in digestive health. I move for passage.
Brown, Harden, Page, Stinziano, Tyson. President Klein.
Thank you. Dr. Gray, the floor is yours.
Thank you, President Pro Tem Tyson. Thank you, President Klein, and thank you other council members for being here. This is truly an honor not only for me, but for everyone I work with. It's definitely a pleasure, particularly as a transplant to Columbus, Ohio, to be a member of this community. For us, it's been a large collaboration with community organizations, as President Pro Tem mentioned, but also a lot of staff, a lot of volunteers, a lot of physicians, a lot of nurses, a lot of techs to make this initiative and this program happen. And we're seeing a huge difference in our community with people from underserved backgrounds, whether it be socioeconomic status being a barrier, whether it be insurance being a barrier, education, health literacy being a barrier. We know that we're reaching people, and it's in large part to the work that you're doing. It's a large part to the community organizations that we work with, and it's just in large part to this Columbus community who has embraced the mission and the vision of this program. We're continually expanding and trying to achieve health equity. I was very pleased to meet Joel from Equitas, and we've already, prior to him coming up, talked about partnering in some efforts as well. I'm also glad to be joined by Ms. Trudy Bartley, who is the director of the PACT program, with whom we also have a relationship. So thank you, Trudy. Thank you, council members. Thank you to my OSU Wexner Medical Center family and my James Center family. Really appreciate this.
Councilmember Harden.
Thank you, President Pro Tem. If there is any question as to how or why my brother is so sharp and so awesome, it's because he is a Morehouse man. Just want to congratulate you, Dr. Gray, on the work that you're doing in the community. As President Pro Tem said, the work that you're doing in the PAC geography, working with young folks from our community is greatly appreciated. I want to congratulate you also on being newly named to the 40 under 40 class this year. As a newly minted person in our community, you're doing amazing work, and look up to you and just keep doing what you're doing. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chairman Harden. And just, it is great. I really wanted Dr. Gray to come to council because it's important. The work that he's doing is really important. And this is being Minority Health Month. And last month was Colorectal Cancer Month. And there's so many individuals in our community, when we talk about disparities, that just don't have access to health care. And it's important that, Dr. Gray and others come down and talk about the work that they're doing and have access to health care. As a matter of tomorrow, when I have my Minority Health, second phase of Minority Health Month hearing, we're going to focus on sexually transmitted diseases, but we're also going to focus on access to health, so people can understand how important it is to get the health care that they need. But I also wanted to, because he is a young man, and just to show what young leaders are in our community and what they're doing in our community to continue to make our community great and taking care of our community. So I'm so excited for you and what you're doing and your team, and just look forward to great things continue to happen, and that you will certainly be helping to save lives in our community. Thank you so very much.
Thank you very much.
He's also a member of First Church, comes to First Church of God.
Thank you.
I just have a couple of announcements. Again, I have a hearing tomorrow at 3:30 on infectious disease and access to care. We have rescheduled our capital improvements budget hearing to Wednesday the 27th at 5 o'clock. And hopefully the viewing and listening audience will come to either tomorrow's hearing or again to the capital improvements budget on Wednesday the 27th. Also, ABC 6 Boots Camp, there is some legislation that will be that's on consent, and should this council pass the legislation, we will be supporting the ABC 6 Boot Camp. This boot camp will have over 40 businesses will participate. It averages around 600 attendees there. This is the 7th year of this program. This year it will be held at the Fawcett Center, and it will be on, let me get some more information. It will be April the 27th, and then we'll have another one July 20th and October the 19th. Please come out to this Jobs Boot Camp. The City of Columbus is also, through the Department of Technology, provides computers there so individuals can sign up for jobs online. And also there'll be seminars on the networking basics, LinkedIn professionals, hidden jewels in the state job market, how to increase your credit score, de-stress while making a career change, professional appearance, professional skills, including introduction to Microsoft, and then know your worth, motivation to fuel your confidence. So please come out on April 27th and from 11 till 3. Thank you.
Thank you, President Pro Tem Tyson. Are there any comments by our elected officials, representatives, the Auditor's Office, Treasurer's Office, City Attorney? I don't see anyone here from the Muni Court. Seeing none, we'll proceed. Are there any requests by members of council for the removal of an ordinance or resolution from the consent action portion of the agenda? Seeing none, may we have a motion to waive reading of the titles of 30-day legislation by the city clerk? Clerk, call the roll.
Brown, Harden, Page, Stenziano, Tyson, President Klein.
Thank you. Clerk, please read into the record the ordinance numbers of 30-day legislation on tonight's agenda for first reading.
First reading of 30-day legislation is as follows. Recreation and Parks Committee, Ordinance 861 and 930-2016. Technology Committee, Ordinances 772 and 900-2016. Public Utilities Committee, Ordinances 788, 789, 868, and 932-2016.
The following ordinances appear on our agenda as consent actions. Will the clerk now read the ordinance numbers of each into the record?
Resolutions of expression 92X, 77X, and 93X-2016. Finance Committee, Ordinances 859, 923-2016. Health and Human Services Committee, Ordinance 386, 590, and 925-2016. Workforce Development Committee, Ordinance 959-2016. Economic Development Committee, Ordinance 637-2016. Public Safety Committee, Ordinances 434, 937, and 939-2016. Public Service and Transportation Committee, Ordinances 865 and 967-2016. Small and Minority Business Development Committee, Ordinances 655 and 691-2016. Recreation and Parks Committee, Ordinances 662 and 928-2016. Housing Committee, Ordinance 875-2016. Technology Committee, Ordinance 832-2016. Public Utilities Committee, Ordinances 196, 770, 783, 822, 922-2016. Judiciary and Court Administration Committee, Ordinance 591-2016. And appointments from the Mayor's Office numbered A0057, 58, 59, 60, 61, 62, 63, 65, 66, 67, and 64-2016.
Thank you, Clerk. We do have one speaker on the consent action portion of the agenda, Mr. Nathaniel George Wilkins. Please come forward. Welcome back to council. If you just could state your name for the record, you have 3 minutes.
1612 Arlington Avenue, Mr. Nathaniel George Wilkins, also the chairman of Solely Vacant and Abandonment Property. I'm asking for more money for I think the ordinance number is 691, 2016. And I just want to ask what would that money be used for? Thank you for your time.
I believe that's in the 691 is in the Small Minority Business Development Committee with Councilmember Harden with the Department of Development. So Director Shoney, could you follow up with Mr. Wilkins at the break? So we're going to have a break and talk to him about this expenditure. Thank you. Councilmember Harden, do you have any comments? Okay. Okay. Any comments by my colleagues on the consent action portion of the agenda? Seeing none, clerk, call the roll by voice.
Ms. Brown? Mr. Brown? Hardin? Page? Stinziano?
Yes, with the exception of ordinance 0925-2016, on which I am abstaining.
Tyson?
Yes, with the exception of 0590-2016, on which I am abstaining.
President Klein?
Yes, with the exception of 928-2016, on which I am abstaining. It looks like the consent action portion carries with the notable exceptions and abstentions. We'll now go to the second reading of 30-day tabled and emergency legislation. The first committee is the Finance Committee, chaired by President Pro Tem Tyson. President Pro Tem Tyson, the floor is yours.
Thank you, President Ginther. I have ordinance number 0960-2016. Is to adopt a capital improvements budget for 12 months ending December 31st of 2016, or until such a time as a new capital improvements budget is adopted, establishing a project budget for the capital improvements requiring legislative authorization in 2016 to repeal ordinance number 0557-2015 as amended and to declare an emergency. I would like to table this ordinance until 5/2/2016, May 2nd of 2016, pending the public hearing.
Is there a second on the tabling? Clerk, call the roll.
Brown, Hardin, Page, Stinziano, Tyson, President Klein.
Tabled.
Thank you. I would now like to go to the next ordinance, which is 0990-2016, is to authorize the Finance and Management Director on behalf of the Fleet Management Division to establish purchase orders with buyers, Ford, and statewide emergency products from previously established universal term contracts for the purchase of vehicles and upfitting parts for use by various city departments. To authorize the Finance and Management Director to establish various purchase orders with Tubulite and Advanced Sign Supply for the acquisition of vehicle decals, and to authorize the appropriation expenditure of $404,507.52 from the Special Revenue Tax Fund. And again, this is, I think, our second vehicle acquisition, and we have $6 million within the budget to pay for these vehicles. And this ordinance, of course, is for $404,000. And these vehicles they'll be also used for upfitting with appropriate lighting that was needed for our vehicles, and also the decals. And Director Lombardi, could you please state which divisions will be getting these vehicles?
Sure. Thank you, Councilmember Tyson, President Klein, members of council. The Health Department will be receiving 3 light-duty trucks. The Recreation and Parks Department will be receiving 1. The Fire Division will be receiving 10, for a total of 14 on this ordinance, and the decals are for our police vehicles.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions or comments from council? If not, I'm going to move for passage.
Clerk, call the roll.
Brown, Hardin, Page, Stinziano, Tyson, President Klein.
Legislation passed.
Thank you. And now I'd like to move to Health and Human Services.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. I have ordinance number 0809-2016. It is to authorize and direct the appropriation of $6,280 within the Neighborhood Initiatives Fund, to authorize expenditure of $20,000 from the Health Special Revenue Fund, and $6,280 from the Neighborhood Initiatives Fund to pay the Columbus Foundation for Active Living for the management of the 2016 community gardening projects. Columbus is a mecca for community gardens, from 12 plots in 2000 to approximately 250 community gardens today. Thousands of residents benefit from greater access to nutritious food, community engagement, beautification, food security, and multiculturalism. More than 40,000 pounds of fresh food is donated annually to fund food pantries and residents who live in food deserts far from grocery stores. Community gardens are one key tool in the effort to make the healthy choice as an easy choice. And that's really important because, again, we also have thinking about minority health and the issues that we have in our community, the issue of diabetes and healthy living. And so having community gardens certainly is important to try to combat individuals that are having some health challenges. And so with that, I'd like to move for passage.
Clerk, call the roll.
Brown, Brown, Hardin, Page, Stinziano, Tyson, President Klein.
Passed.
Thank you. That's all I have in my committees.
Thank you, President Pro Tem Tyson. Next committee is Economic Development, chaired by Elizabeth Brown. Councilmember, floor is yours.
Thank you, President Klein. Tonight in Economic Development Committee, we have ordinance number 1020-2016 to amend the tax increment finance agreement between Ohio Health Corporation and the City of Columbus by broadening the scope of eligible public improvements and to declare an emergency. Before I take questions and move for passage, Director Shoney, if you could elaborate a little more on the purpose of broadening the scope.
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chair, President Klein, members of council. We are broadening the scope to allow us to use TIF funds on an existing TIF to support a traffic study that we're doing in the area to see how we can work to better accommodate traffic in the 315 and North Broadway corridor.
Great. Thank you so much. Are there any questions for my colleagues? All right, I move for passage.
Was that a second, President Pro Tem Tyson? Clerk, call the roll.
Brown, Brown, Hardin, Page, Stinziano, Tyson, President Klein.
Passed.
Thank you, President Klein. That's all I have in my committees.
Thank you, Councilmember Brown. The next committee is Public Service and Transportation. Shannon Hardin's the chair. Councilmember, the floor is yours.
Thank you, President Klein. Today in Public Service and Transportation Committee, we have one ordinance 0978-2016 to authorize the Director of Public Service to reimburse various utilities for utility relocation costs incurred in conjunction with the roadway improvements I-7071 interchange project. Public Service capital improvement projects to authorize the expenditure of up to $1 million from the Streets and Highways GO Bond Fund and declare an emergency. This ordinance comes to us as part of the I-7071 interchange project. The ordinance will authorize up to $1 million to relocate utilities for those utility relocations in conjunction with the Department of Public Service and others. So if there are no questions or comments from my colleagues, I move for passage.
Clerk, call the roll.
Brown, Brown, Hardin, Page, Stinziano, Tyson, President Klein.
That's all we have
Legislation
in
passed. Thank you.
this committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to Public Utilities, chaired by Councilmember Stinziano. The floor is yours.
Thank you, President Klein. Tonight in Public Utilities, we have Ordinance 790-2016 to authorize the Director of Public Utilities to modify and increase funding to an existing agreement with InfoSend, Inc. for electronic traditional bill presentment and payment application services for the Department of Public Utilities, and to authorize the expenditure of $1,100,000 from the Water Operating Fund. The purpose of this ordinance is to allow, essentially, for Columbus residents to pay your utility bill online. Customers will now have the convenience of receiving and paying their City of Columbus utility accounts or to manage their utility accounts through traditional means. If there are no questions or comments, I move for passage.
This is a welcome addition, Director Davies. Clerk, call the roll.
Brown, Brown, Hardin, Page, Stinziano, Tyson, President Klein.
Passed.
The next piece of legislation is Ordinance 805-2016 to authorize the Director of Public Utilities to enter into a construction contract with Decker Construction Company for utility cut and restoration services for the Division of Water, Division of Power, and Division of Sewerage and Drainage, and to authorize the expenditure of $925,622.50 from the Water Operating Fund, $40,000 from the Electricity Operating Fund, and $495,000 from the Sewer Operating Sanitary Fund. This ordinance allows for various types of utility excavations performed within the City of Columbus right-of-way by the Department of Public Utilities. The restoration work typically involves repairs of existing pavement, curbs, and sidewalks in a manner conforming to the City of Columbus construction and material specification. Typical types of restoration work that requires outsourcing involves installation of wheelchair ramps, asphalt repair involving thermobond, heat weld repairs, asphalt milling machines capable of full-width milling, and the delivery of flowable controlled density fill using volumetric mixer trucks. The Director of Public Utilities publicly opened one bid on February 24, 2016 from Decker Construction Company, whose bid was then deemed the lowest, most responsive, and responsible bid. The contract does contain a multi-year renewal option. If there are no questions or comments from my colleagues, I move for passage.
Clerk, call the roll.
Brown, Brown, Harden, Page, Stinziano, Tyson, President Klein.
Passed.
That is all we have in public utilities. If I could proceed to
Please.
judiciary. Thank you, President Klein. Tonight in judiciary and court administration, we have ordinance 901-2016 to authorize and direct the city attorney to settle the lawsuit of James R. Barber v. City of Columbus, Ohio et al., pending in the United States District Court for the Southern District of Ohio Eastern Division, to authorize the expenditure of the sum of $237,000 in settlement of this lawsuit and declare an emergency. The claim that this ordinance results from, it was an encounter that occurred on November 13th, 2013. And seeing the city attorney, I would respectfully ask if you wouldn't mind discussing the settlement before proceeding.
Chairman Stinziano, President Klein, members of council. Back in November of 2013, about 7 p.m. at night, Officers Schoolcraft and Yeager were in their cruiser on patrol when they received a dispatch that there was a stabbing at a motel located in the Rome-Hilliard I-70 exchange area. So they proceeded to that location. They were directed to the second floor of this motel, to room 220. If you can picture with me, I'm sure you've seen these two-story motels where the doors are on the outside, there's a walkway, and then there's a guardrail. On the way, they were told that the stabbing was someone was stabbing himself. So they proceed upstairs to the second floor. Officer Yeager is in front of Officer Schoolcraft. Officer Yeager is standing at the door and sees a man approaching her with what she saw things in his hands and said, "Drop the knife, drop the knife." He proceeded forward, and as he got to the door opening with Officer Yeager about 8 feet down, Officer Yeager says, "Drop it," and sees what he says is a silver item, fires a shot, and hits Mr. Barber, who's the plaintiff in this case, in the shoulder. As a result of that incident, we were sued, we the city and these officers were sued in the Southern District on a excessive use of force claim. What apparently happened was that these two individuals, the individual who was stabbing himself and this other person, Mr. Barber, were apparently roofers who had business in the area and were staying at this motel. So for whatever reason, the person whose name I don't know at this time was stabbing himself. Mr. Barber went to his room to help him. So he went to the room and was collecting sharp objects. And as he came to the door with Officer Yeager looking straight at him, he was told to drop whatever he had. He did not. What basically happened was it was Mr. Barber who went to the room to help, to get these objects away. As a result of the injuries Mr. Barber suffered, he was out of work for 1 year, suffered serious pain and injury and significant medical bills, and apparently will have to have continuing rehab. We looked at the facts of these cases, or what we argued the facts would be versus what the other side argued the facts would be, looking at the risk of perhaps balancing whether you could win or lose. Now remember, this is what we call a 1983 lawsuit. That's section 1983 of the 42nd chapter of the U.S. Code. We lose these cases, we pay attorney's fees. This case is going on for a while, so you're looking at pretty substantial attorney fees. So weighing what we saw were the possible outcomes, we decided that in the best interest of the city, we should settle this case. And the other side agreed, and the number we arrived at was $237,000. We think this is a fair settlement based upon what we think could possibly happen at the trial, and we would ask council this evening to approve this ordinance so that we may pay this settlement agreement. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. City Attorney. Are there any questions or comments? Councilmember Tyson.
Attorney Pfeiffer, does that also include the person's medical bills? Is included in this 230?
Representative. Councilmember Tyson, that's it. 237 covers everything, and we're all released of liability. 237, that's what'll get it done. Thank you.
If there are no further questions or comments, I move for passage.
Clerk, call the roll.
I apologize, there was an amendment submitted. I move to amend as submitted to the clerk.
Okay, clerk, call the roll on the amendment.
Brown, Brown, Harden, Page, Stinziano, Tyson, President Klein.
Amended.
Now I move for passage as amended.
Clerk, call the roll for passage.
Brown, Brown, Harden, Page, Stinziano, Tyson, President Klein.
Legislation passed.
Thank you, President Klein. That's all I have in my committees tonight.
Thank you, Councilmember Stinziano. Is there any other business to come before council? We have a couple non-agenda speakers that we'll take momentarily. We do have a zoning agenda tonight, which we will commence at 6:30. Any other business? Seeing none, may I have a motion to adjourn? Is there a second? There is. Clerk, call the roll.
Brown, Brown, Harden, Page, Stinziano, Tyson, President Klein.
We stand adjourned. We'll take non-agenda speakers momentarily. Regular meeting number 23 will now come to order. Can I get a motion to dispense with the reading of the journal? Is there a second? Clerk, call the roll.
Brown, Brown, Harden, Page, Stinziano, Tyson, President Klein.
City Clerk, any communications or reports received?
No, there are not.
About first readings of 30-day legislation.
There are none.
Okay, we'll now proceed to the Zoning Committee. Councilmember Page chairs that committee. All members serve on that committee. Councilmember Page?
Thank you, President Klein. Before beginning the zoning agenda, I'll briefly explain the rules of council as pertaining to speaking before council on zonings and variances. We permit 3 speakers on each side, 3 proponents and 3 opponents, and we ask that they limit their remarks to 3 minutes on each side, and we provide an opportunity for rebuttal from the applicant. On the advice of the City Attorney's Office, we ask that anyone here this evening who wishes to speak either for or against any council variance, including staff, please stand, raise your right hand, and be sworn in. I wish to tell the truth and nothing but the truth. Please answer, I will. I will. Thank you. Our first ordinance this evening is 929-2016 to grant a variance from the provisions of sections 3332.039 R4 Residential District, 3312.49 minimum numbers of parking spaces required, 3332.05 A4 area district lot width requirements, 3332.21 building lines, and 3332.27 rear yard of the Columbus City Codes for the property located at 1125 Linwood Avenue, 43206, to permit a Type A home daycare facility with reduced development standards in the R4 residential district. The applicant is Barbara Burden. The proposed use is a Type A home daycare facility within a single unit dwelling. The City Department's recommendation is approval. Columbus Southside Area Commission recommended approval. I'd just like to ask Shannon for a quick staff overview.
Certainly. Good evening. This is similar to several requests that council has approved in the past couple years. Type B daycare facilities, which are for 6 children or less, are permitted outright without any zoning approval necessary. The Type A is a little bit of a different in that it is kind of a hybrid between a daycare center, but it's still taking place within a home. They are limited to a maximum of 12 children, and there's a lot of regulations through the Ohio Department of Jobs and Family Services. They have to get a team inspection. They have to be licensed and inspected every year. Typically, since the primary use is still a dwelling, staff doesn't have any issues with these, and they're vetted through our Public Service Department for transportation pickup and drop-off plans as well. I'd be happy to answer any questions, but our recommendation is for approval.
Thank you, Ms. Pine. Is the applicant here? Okay. You may come up and have 3 minutes. And please state your name and any organizations you may represent.
My name is Minister Babs. Barbara Burden is but I go by Minister Babs in the neighborhood, and I'm an advocate in the neighborhood with the churches and the children and the community, the block watchers at Civic, and I really care about our community and our south side of Columbus, Ohio, and I care about the children. A lot of children are, going by the wayside, and a lot of them don't have anyone to care for them. I help out. I'm retired, so I help out. I see the children when they're going to school, coming to and fro, and there's a lot of working parents. and they need someone that, cares about their children. A lot of times, the children are walking around not dressed right. I can, encourage them to grow up and be better, and that'll help our neighborhoods be better and stay cleaner and eliminate vandalism, because we have a lot of that. The children don't have anything to do or no one to look out for them or just take time to even talk to them. So being able to watch up to 12 children at one time would help someone's child, working parents, parents that go to school, and, single parents and low to moderate income individuals. So it also helped build back up our community. Okay?
Well,
That's
thank
all I
you
have to say.
so much, Ms. Burden. Are there any questions or comments for her? Well,
Commissioner Babb,
Yes.
you said you retired. Retired from, what did you do before?
I worked at the Civil Rights Commission
Civil Rights Commission?
for 30 years.
Thank you.
And I've always babysat children all my life. When I went to work, my daughter started babysitting, so I said, oh, well, good, she can do it, But then when I retired, it was like the little kiddies, it was just something, they need some nurturing. They need someone that takes time. A lot of the parents don't know how. I encourage a lot of young mothers how to care for their children and the importance of what you need to do and just even help them. I found myself, going to homes and helping them clean up and fold clothes and, and I'm like, well, what am I doing this for? But you never know what your, purpose that God has you for in this earth. So I found a niche, and that's, helping children grow up to be able to be respectable, reputable individuals, learn how to go to college. Like the children I brought in here today, I told them, look at this building, read some of these signs. I wanted to show them some pictures. I told them this is where, Michael Coleman, this is where his office was. We need to tell our children that. These children don't know anything. They're going around the neighborhoods, they're tearing it up, they're throwing trash. I even ask them when they go by, can you use the dumpster? And teach them how to close the dumpster so the cats won't get in it. And we can eliminate a lot of things if we take time to talk to them.
President Pro Tem Tyson.
Thank you, Chairwoman Page. Just, again, Ms. Burden, just thank you for coming down and thank you for caring about our community. Certainly, we need a lot more people to care, and certainly, if you live in the community, each person who lives in the community has a role to play in the community. I thank you for the role that you're playing to helping our children to move forward and hopefully have a very successful life. Thank you for your commitment. Thank you for your commitment for 30 years at the, the Civil Rights Commission.
Ohio Civil Rights Commission.
Thank you so much.
And I still help people there, so I refer them. I say, well, if you need some help, I know how to write a charge.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. All right. That's all I have.
President Klein.
You, Chair Page, since I'm inspired by your community activism and your outreach to children. Do the kids, if it's okay with you, want to come down and maybe say their name in the microphone and be part of the process?
Come on, children. And this is my assistant. She works with children as well.
Come on down.
And she's very enthused about, anything I want to do, to help children. You know what to do with the mic? What figure it? Yes.
My name is Nevaeh Heller. My name is.
Just stay right there and say it real loud.
My name is Calvin Heller,
What's your
Junior
middle name?
Lazarus.
Your middle name is Lazarus. Okay, go.
My name is Nasai Marie Heller.
Yes. So these children I take and I nurture. I've had custody of over 15 to 20 children in my life. I only bared one child. She's about 43, so I only have. God only gave me one, and I said, well, I'm not taking any more children unless they leave the papers on the doorsteps, and that's what started happening in my life also. So.
Well, I appreciate your community activism. Thank you.
Stevens, she helps.
Ms. Stevens, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Calvin wants to be on council, I guess one day.
Well, if there are no further questions or comments, I move for passage.
Brown, Hardin, Page, Stinziano, Tyson, President Klein.
Thank you. And our next two ordinances are actually companion ordinances for the same property. 839-2016 to rezone 1317 Chesapeake Avenue, 43212, being .75 acres located on the south side of Chesapeake Avenue, 139 feet west of Northwest Boulevard from M Manufacturing District to AR3 Apartment Residential District. The applicant is Metropolitan Holdings LLC in care of David Hodge, attorney. The proposed use is a multi-unit residential development. The city department's recommendation is approval. Fifth by Northwest Area Commission is approval. I would like to ask Ms. Pine for staff presentation.
The 0.75 acre site consists of 3 parcels zoned in the M Manufacturing District that are developed with industrial buildings and parking. The applicant is requesting to rezone all 3 parcels to the AR3 Apartment Residential District to allow multi-unit residential development. This site is located in the boundaries of the 5th by Northwest Neighborhood Plan, which recommends mixed use, including multi-unit residential uses for this location. While the plan does not include density guidelines for this area, the proposed density is compatible with the adjacent residential uses. The requested AR3 Apartment Residential District is more consistent with the surrounding zoning district and land uses than the existing M Manufacturing District. And as Councilwoman Page said earlier, there is a companion council variance request that we have with this proposal to vary parking lot, landscaping, lot coverage, building lines, and yard standards. Staff's recommendation is for approval, and I'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pine. Are there any questions? I believe that Attorney David Hodge is here. Would you like to make any comments?
Thank you, Councilwoman Page. President Klein, members of council, I'm David Hodge, attorney with the law firm Underhill & Hodge, the attorney for the applicant in this rezoning and council variance request, and I'll be very brief. The legislation before you this evening is consistent with the land use plan. It's here with a city staff recommendation of approval. It's here with a unanimous approval from the 5th by Northwest Area Commission and also Development Commission's unanimous approval on the rezoning request. As Ms. Pine mentioned, it is currently zoned in an unrestricted M district adjacent to residentially zoned and used properties. So truly the outlier here is not the zoning that's being requested. The outlier here is the existing zoning on the property. This is a good zoning, and we respectfully request your approval of the legislation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Attorney Hodge. Are there any questions? Seeing none, I would first like to move to take this ordinance from the table.
Brown, Hardin, Page, Stinziano, Tyson, President Klein.
And I now move for passage.
Brown, Hardin, Page, Stinziano, Tyson, President Klein.
Thank you. And our final ordinance, again, is a companion piece, 840-2016, to grant a variance from the provisions of sections 3312.21 D1, landscaping and screening, 3312.25, maneuvering, 3312.29, parking space, 3321.07B, landscaping, 3333.15C, basis of computing area, 3333.18D1, building lines, and 3333.24, rear yard of the Columbus City Codes for the property located at 1317 Chesapeake Avenue, 43212, to permit a 45-unit apartment building with reduced development standards in the AR3 Apartment Residential District. The applicant is Metropolitan Holdings LLC, care of David Hodge. The proposed use is a multi-unit residential development. The city department's recommendation is approval. Fifth by Northwest Area Commission recommended approval. Is there any staff presentation to add?
Sure. This council variance request is to allow for variances to landscaping and screening, maneuvering, parking space, required number of landscaping, trees, maximum lot coverage, building lines, and rear yard standards in conjunction with the AR3 zoning request that we just discussed. And it's actually for a 46-unit apartment. There was an amendment that was submitted this afternoon, or Friday, sorry. These reduced development standards are supportable because they allow for better design and placement of the building. and parking on the development site. Most of the parking is enclosed within the building. The requested variances are reflective of higher density infill development in urban neighborhoods, including developments in the 5th by Northwest planning area. Therefore, staff's recommendation is for approval of this request. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Pine. Are there any questions? Seeing none, I would ask the applicant, do you have any additional information to add? Thank you, Attorney Hodge. We do have one speaker speaking against this ordinance. I would like to ask Mr. Jeff Gossman to come to the podium and please state your name and any organizations that you are representing. And you have 3 minutes.
Thank you, council members. Jeff Gossman, I am a property owner at 1661 Northwest Boulevard. The property does adjoin the subject property that we're talking about tonight. I'm representing other property owners whose property also adjoins that, and they can't be here tonight. When we saw the requested variances, we had some issues. We reached out to Mr. Hodge. We worked through the issues, and at this point, I believe we have a gentleman's agreement to resolve some of those issues. So we're all good with that. There is, however, one issue that cannot be addressed, and the city itself would have to address it, and that is the current state of Chesapeake Drive, Road, I think it's Drive. And Chesapeake is the sole point of entry to the applicant's property as well as our own. Currently, Chesapeake is a very old road, and it allows for parking on both sides, but at the same time, it does not permit two-way simultaneous traffic. The road is paved. It's about 33 feet wide with asphalt. It falls off on the edges with gravel and then into the property owner's yard. So if you do the math and you've got, cars parked on both sides, it's impossible to do two-way simultaneous traffic. I have pictures, if you so please, if anyone. The pictures show what is happening when cars are attempting to enter and exit Chesapeake off of Northwest. And it's a condition that's similar to chicken. I'll stop, I'll let you go, no, you go, that type of thing. So what I'm asking is the city to take a look at Chesapeake. The drawing that was submitted by the applicant shows that Chesapeake has a 50-foot right-of-way, 50-foot wide. I don't know if that's true or not. I'd like to know if it is true, can we have the city expand Chesapeake, not to the full 50-foot, but to make it navigational to where you can have two-way traffic and still maintain parking on both sides. That's all. That's all we're asking. Thank you. Questions?
Well, Mr. Gossman, you do have about 40 seconds if you want to continue. Or
No, I'm fine. Thank you. If anyone has a question, I'll be happy to answer.
Thank you. I do have at least one question. So are you actually against the ordinance, or are you fine with the project?
I'm okay with the project with this one exception. So I had to speak against it because of the concerns that we have with Chesapeake. Now, the applicant is going to propose adding 50-plus more vehicles to that short amount of highway where Chesapeake intersects Northwest Boulevard. That's a lot of cars to put out there during peak periods, and I feel like that we need to have some more width to Chesapeake. So yes, I had to register as a con for the project, but after talking and working out things with Mr. Hodge, we're pretty much in agreement with this one exception. Like I say, this is out of our control. It's going to have to be something the city would have to address on our behalf, if you would.
Thank you. Are there any further questions for Mr. Gossman?
I would just
make a comment if it's
Councilman
over
Harden.
review, Chair Page. Certainly, thank you for bringing this to our attention. I chair the Public Service and Transportation Committee, and get your information afterwards, and like to have a conversation, see if there's something we can do from public service and street maintenance angle.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gossman.
Thank you, council.
If there's any rebuttal from the applicant? Thank you, Attorney Hodge. Is there any additional comments from staff? Thank you. Well, seeing none, I would first like to move to take this ordinance from the table.
Brown, Harden, Page, Stinziano, Tyson, President Klein.
I now move to amend as submitted to the clerk. It's no longer 45 units, but would like to amend it to 46 units.
Brown, Harden, Page, Stinziano, Tyson, President Klein.
And finally, I would like to move for passage of this ordinance.
Brown, Harden, Page, Stinziano, Tyson, President Klein.
Thank you, President Klein. That's all we have in zoning this evening.
Thank you, Chair Page. Can I get a motion to adjourn if there's no other business to come before council? Clerk, call the roll.
Brown, Harden, Page, Stinziano, Tyson, President Klein.
We stand adjourned.